Do you have an assignment that calls for primary and secondary sources? Do you need some help distinguishing between them? This tutorial will help you tell the difference between primary and secondary sources. You'll learn about their characteristics. You'll see some examples of each, and you'll learn about how and when to use primary and secondary sources. Let me tell you about some of the characteristics of primary sources. They are first-hand accounts and/or individual representations. Primary sources are created by those who have directly witnessed what they are describing. They are original documents and usually don't describe or analyze other documents. Primary sources may be published, but sometimes they are unpublished. So how can primary sources be used? Primary sources can be viewed as the focal point of a discussion. Use primary sources when you want to make claims or criticisms. Use them as evidence for theories, or when you want to gain timely perspectives on a subject. Let me tell you about some of the characteristics of secondary sources. Secondary sources interpret and/or analyze primary sources. These sources are at least a step removed from what they are describing. Usually, secondary sources are published works. What can secondary sources be used for? You can view secondary sources as part of a conversation about a topic. Use secondary sources when you want to see what others have discussed. They can be a good place to gather background information on a topic. You can also use secondary sources to explore what subtopics have already been studied on a given topic. A source's classification as primary or secondary can change depending on the topic that you're studying. For example, if you're writing about how news is represented on the internet, a news site like CNN.com could be considered a primary source. You're studying news on the internet, and CNN.com represents the object that you're studying. However, if you're writing about political elections and you find an article on CNN.com that analyzes them, the article would be considered a secondary source. Since you're studying elections, an article on CNN.com about them is a step removed from the object that you're studying.